is a group of employees from these companies are going to bring a class action suit against a Disney, for example, for race-based hiring, where they got passed over for promotions and passed over for hiring when they were the most qualified candidates because they were white. I want everybody to focus in on that comment real well right now. It's like Chapek, but on steroids. Renegade Online. Talk about the story, and then we'll have some conversation. I want to see what you guys think. Walt Disney insiders are furious with CEO Bob Iger over his perceived capitulation on DEI initiatives, as well as its recent settlement of a lawsuit involving ABC News host George Stephanopoulos brought by President Trump. And remind everybody, Stephanopoulos went out and he hammered home this complete lie, this fabrication that Trump was a... He said this on TV over and over and over and over. He was convicted of... He said, quote, Donald Trump was convicted of which was not true, or found liable for rape, which was not true. Donald Trump went after ABC, the Walt Disney Company, and shortly after Trump won, lo and behold, Disney caved and wrote a check for $10 million to the Donald Trump Library Foundation, not to Trump personally, but to the nonprofit that's going to open up the Trump Library.
But wasn't it like $15 million to the foundation plus $1 million to legal fees?
It was, yeah, $10 million to the foundation and $1 million to reimburse his attorneys. Yep, something like that. This is not what I expected from Bob. I thought he had our back, says a company insider telling Deadline, adding, what's next? Where do we go from here? What do we stand for now? Keeping MAGA happy? Disney is restructuring its diversity, equity, and inclusion programs to focus more on business outcomes, replacing the diversity and inclusion executive performance factor with a broader, quote, talent strategy, and rebranding employee groups to emphasize workplace belonging. I don't know. Guys, it just sounds like a bunch of crap to me. What does this mean?
It sounds like they deleted the Reimagine Tomorrow department and program and replaced it with Reimagine Your Sorrows if you're someone who's on the far, far wokey woke left. And they're left now with a ton of employees who hate their guts. And their only thing that they've got to do in life is leak. And that was one biological issue they already had, but now they're doing it with their mouths, leaking to the trades everything they hate about the mouse. Good luck with that, Disney. Hope you have a fun time with a huge cacophony of crazy loons all living inside your corporation.
I don't feel like there's much changing going on here. I think that the key word here is rebranding.
Yes. Well, yeah, because
branding.
Well, they're using the magic word, right?
Right.
I mean, we've been talking about belonging for a while, and it's part of the video that I'm trying to figure out how to edit for the third video for tomorrow evening. And it's this weird thing. It's like, hey, this is bridge. When the minute you hear belonging, that means bridge. Bridge means it's DEI plus, which makes it even more institutionalized inside of organizations and corporations. If you hear belonging, you know DEI is here to stay. And for Disney, it's entrenchment in a way that will destroy this company down to its very last dollar.
But the crazies are still so mad about it, they're leaking to the trades.
I know. But because they don't even want, they want the outward notion of it. They want to have a pride march about DEI. They don't want it hidden because they don't want to feel, and pardon the expression, but it fits here, they don't want to be put back in the closet. I love the fact that in this article about DEI and belonging, we get a picture here of Bob Iger culturally appropriating South Pacific peoples of color with his lei and his shirt. Additionally, the company has removed the autoplay content advisories warning about outdated depictions in older films like Dumbo and Peter Pan, moving them to the details section instead. Disney is not making changes like that or even renaming their DEI department just because Trump is putting the foot down with federal offices. Remember, there's no executive order here to corporate America to do this. Now, there is the auspices of the fact that the next step in lawsuit land is a group of employees from these companies are going to bring a class action suit against a Disney, for example, for race-based hiring, where they got passed over for promotions and passed over for hiring when they were the most qualified candidates because they were white. And they're going to have scores of evidence, Disney proudly touting it, as a matter of fact, in multiple press releases, that that's exactly what they're doing. Disney is doing this kind of stuff, removing these warnings that they put in on Disney Plus, because Disney damn well knows the audience reaction to these things has been horrible for them. I don't see what removing these warnings has to do with anything on the DEI side. Put a little warning in front of it, fine. They're getting rid of it because they've actually caught and flack for it. They're getting made fun of for it because it was a dumb thing to do to begin with. This is the kind of thing, that's the thing that jumped out at me more than anything, that says this is one of those moments where the Walt Disney Company, like we always say, they don't do mea culpas. They simply just change things after they have already screwed the pooch, and they know it. They simply go quietly under cover of darkness and they change something. This is it. This is as close to an apology as you're going to get from Disney.
Valiant, I think the thing is that while you gave a good explanation of okay, it's a great explanation as to why they're probably doing it. I think you're on point. That does not explain, however, none of these woke morons are ever going to understand what you just said or agree with it. All they see, all they're going to see is that we're trying to unburden what has been in some of these Disney properties, Valiant. And yesterday, we were burdened. And if we have the warnings, we can unburden ourselves of what was burdensome. So that's what they're looking at it like, wait a minute, we fought to get these warnings about this racist crap. That's what they think, it's racist crap. But now you're pulling it away. And as far as Culture's comment about bridge and institutionalizing, look, when people inside Disney that are employees start getting pissed off, that to me is a good sign, because while we might want an apology, while we might want a declaration, the way we're going to see changes, we're going to start it from within, and it's going to start by pissing off the employees that have been screwing the shit up in the first place. Yeah. So I think this is a welcome first step. It is not dramatic change, and there's many more yards of the field left to go. But I am inspired. Whenever wokies start losing their minds, I am inspired and positive about the future. When I see the wokies in the DEI hires all happy and comfy and in their DEI, work from home, get $100,000 a year for being morons that add no value to a company's bottom line, that's what I don't want to see. So when they're freaking out and they're calling Deadline and Hollywood Reporter and Bob is not doing the job we thought he was, I'm happy. Mexican Iron Man is quite satisfied with that. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. I think we all would be. Additionally, these changes reflect the pressure that corporations face in adapting to evolving political expectations, particularly under the Trump administration's renewed push against DEI initiatives. Immediately upon taking office, Trump issued executive orders to dismantle DEI within federal agencies, including eliminating DEI-related positions and initiatives. These orders also prohibited private organizations from implementing DEI frameworks in federally contracted jobs, emphasizing a return to merit-based hiring practices. So, if Disney wanted to do contract work for the U.S. government, then it would be an issue for them, right? Same with any DEI consulting firms that the U.S. government was contracting with. Some Disney employees were also unhappy over Iger's decision to agree to a $16 million payout to Trump as part of a settlement of a defamation suit. So maybe it was a little bit more than 10. I thought it was 10-1, or maybe it was higher. The first number said 10-1. It might have been updated.
15-1. It's 16.
Okay, so it got updated after the last time I saw it then. The one I saw was 10. One person described by Deadline magazine as a, quote, well-positioned individual. You know, at Disney, I question whether or not I want to know what that means. One person described as a well-positioned individual within the company called the decision to settle an embarrassment and the beginning of the capitulation. Disney settles stuff like this because, generally speaking, they can kind of see the tea leaves and the writing on the wall, and they know they're going to lose.
Well, hey, what happened with that CNN dude? He took a giant amount of cash, but not as much as he could have.
Yeah. I
Valiant,
mean,
let me ask you this, though, Valiant. We have seen Wall Street sort of move into the Disney C-suite, right? We've seen Gorman. We've seen Hugh ... Johnston. And it seems to me there may be an effort from the sensible center, especially those in the institutions, the economic institutions, if you will, who have decided they've had enough of Disney and their open disdain for the majority of Americans. Do you think that's where the pressure is coming from? Do you think that they're preparing for Iger to move on out and they want to bring in somebody who's a moderate? Like, is that what this is all about? And is this why the insiders are freaking out according to the trades?
I mean, it very well could be. And this is what I was saying earlier when it comes to, I think if Kamala Harris had won, Dana Walden would have all been assured to take the throne. I don't think she's entirely out of the running. But the fact that Gorman's in there, and I think if he has the kind of autonomy that I'm hoping he actually has, then he is genuinely probably looking at third parties, meaning people not already in the Disney climate. I think Bob Iger is trying to slap as much paint on this thing as he can before he leaves to say, look at everything I accomplished. And everybody thinks Disney is great. Disney's wonderful. Disney's awesome. Why is Disney still $100 a share? That's what it was 6 years ago. I don't know, but everything's great at Disney. When the next person comes in, if the new person isn't able to actually put some actual substance behind the bluster that has been Bob Iger, then that paint is going to crack and fall off real quick. The Post reported, and I love this part, they had to do a public apology, right? And the New York Post reported earlier in the week that George Stephanopoulos himself was particularly unhappy over being forced to attach his name to the apology. Well, you said it, douchebag, so it's on you. Too bad. Disney employees who spoke to Deadline also expressed frustration with the company decision to remove a transgender-themed storyline from its upcoming Pixar series for children, Win or Lose, altering dialogue and content to align with new internal directives. Yes, lo and behold, amazingly, Disney finally figured out, and I'm so glad they came around. This was really difficult. You know, America was incredibly ambiguous on this topic about whether or not we wanted children's entertainment companies to sexually groom children. I know there was a big debate out there in America over whether we wanted this or not, but I'm glad Disney finally figured it out. There was no debate. Adding to the speculation about Disney's discretion, Iger's low-profile presence at the Hollywood premiere of Captain America: Brave New World raised eyebrows. Unlike past appearances, the CEO, who normally poses on the red carpet with the stars, and the creative team avoided public interactions. Some sources speculated to Deadline the presence of pro-Palestinian protesters and other political factors may have contributed to his brief red carpet appearance. Brave New World, the latest installment in the MCU, features a new Israeli superhero character, that was Sabra, portrayed by actress Shira Haas. And it goes into this inside. I'm going to go through all the thing about Sabra, but yeah, she was an OG comic book character. We kind of knew she was coming for this comic book movie. Hey, I mean, they put her in there. Great. You want diversity? Put an Israeli superhero in there. Yes, you're going to anger people in places, certain areas like Dearborn, Michigan, I'm sure. In the film, her character is reimagined as a former Black widow and a high-ranking U.S. government official, differing from her original comic book depiction as a Mossad agent known as Sabra. Right, so they kind of changed that because in the original comic book, I think she's part of Mossad. She's part of the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces. She's actually Israeli. But in any case, Mackie, who plays Captain America in the upcoming film, also faced backlash from conservative media earlier this year after suggesting the character represents more than just America. It wasn't earlier this year. Bro, it was like last week. But was it really just conservative media? Was it truly? I think this is kind of the mistake that Disney makes. In response to the controversy, Mackie quickly clarified his stance, emphasizing his pride in playing the role and reaffirming his patriotism, blah, 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 blah. So here's the thing. The point is that, yes, there's a lot of people right now at Disney, at Pixar, at Lucasfilm, and a lot of these subsidiaries that are not happy with the fact that Disney is publicly trying to distance itself, at least in name, from DEI, but it doesn't seem like anybody on this panel believes that Disney is actually walking away from this stuff.
It depends on who they tell us is going to replace Bob Iger. That's what we're looking for. So what we're paying attention to, I know it would be easy for me to come out right now and say, well, no, they're completely going to be, they'll just go underground for a while. But the reality is we've got a transfer of power coming up, and that is largely, I believe, now being handed off to Wall Street to select. So we need to see who Wall Street's going to select. And if Wall Street goes with sort of, if they go with a World Economic Forum kind of selection, that'll tell us one thing. If they go with somebody who is somewhere towards the middle, or who, let's say they pick somebody who could get along with at a dinner an Ike Perlmutter, then we'll also know something. So that's what we're watching to see.
All right, so you're abstaining from the vote.
Well, until I know who they're picking. But here's why, Mike. Because whoever comes into Disney, they've got it's like being selected to be the head of Lucasfilm. When you come in, it's not as if you can just say, we're going to fix this, this, and this, and this, and we're going to make this, because you have a hive of people that now work for you who, if you try to moderate in any way, they hate your guts. They'll do everything they can to Chapek you again, and you'll get these kinds of leaks, and they'll witch and they'll moan and they'll whine, and it's just, I don't know who wants to take the job at Disney because of what Iger has created. Iger politicized this company to such a degree and brought in so many people who are so ideological. I don't know who wants it.
Yeah,
but I got to wait to see who comes in.
I was going to say, to your point, and I'll go to this is the original article that this came from Deadline, and the original interview, I should say. And it's basically the same information we just went over. But it adds a few other things in there, something you brought up, like the whole issue with Chapek. And I love how they put Trump's face right here. This is like a thumbnail I would make. Dissent grows at Disney over perceived capitulation to Trump, right? And they talk about some of the same lawsuits. It goes in a lot of the same stuff. But I love some of the comments here. Okay, it's like Chapek on steroids. One Mouse House insider claimed. A nod to the, quote, "Don't Say Gay" stumbled in 2022 by Disney short-term ex-CEO Bob Chapek. I want everybody to focus in on that comment real well right now. It's like Chapek, but on steroids. Everybody, what were they saying back then? That Chapek was part of the woke problem. Chapek was the guy who brought the woke in. Chapek was the guy who wanted to fight Ron DeSantis and drag Disney into the war.
Wait a minute. We didn't say that.
No, we didn't say that. There was a lot of folks out there who were saying that.
We didn't say that.
No, we did not. We did not. No, there were a lot of other folks out there who were saying that.
Why were those morons saying that?
I don't know. But they thought that Bob Chapek, Iger did everything great, and then Chapek screwed all this up. Again, this is why I was saying earlier, this is exactly what Bob Iger wants to have happen again. If anything goes wrong in the next 2 years, he wants to make sure that the paint doesn't come off the turd until after he's gone, so his successor can be the one to bear the blame. Same as this. It's like Chapek on steroids. And this Mouse House insider is pissed off because they perceived, correctly, that Bob Chapek was smashing the hammer down on this leftist politicization inside Disney, which he was. And which reminds, this is Don't Say Gay stumble in 2022. You know what the stumble is for this insider? It's not what Bob Chapek wound up doing at the end. The stumble was what Chapek did in the beginning when he said, and he told his employees, we're not getting involved in this. We don't need to be involved in state legislation. He said, we just feel like, if our employees want to be for it or against it, that's fine, but we're not getting involved in it as a company. That's the stumble, according to these nutbag employees. That Bob Chapek should have used all of the might and the money of the Disney shareholder. Basically, you know, the old expression, socialism works great until you run out of other people's money. Same thing here. These employees want to use other people's money, Disney shareholder money, to leverage their own political aspirations or their own social justice aspirations in this case. And they were pissed that Chapek didn't want to go along with it until they put him in a corner, and Bob Iger got back involved and helped to put him in that corner. And we all know how that turned out. So since you mentioned Chapek, I wanted to bring that little quote up. Because, again, a lot of new viewers out there. A lot of people hadn't heard that story. Bob Iger-run media giant unveiled shifts this week in its much-touted diversity, equity, and inclusion programs in a memo to global staff Tuesday, this past week. Disney Human Resources Chief Pro Sonia Coleman asserted that the changes and other related moves were intended to line up with self-declared, quote, business goals and company values. Pro, who did Sonia Coleman... Who was she brought in to replace when the predecessor retired?
Are you talking about Ton Newton?
Talking about Ton Newton. Who was Ton Newton at the Walt Disney Company? What department did she head?
Well, she was a part-time Etsy jewelry artist, but beyond that, she was head of DEI. She was
the first head of the Walt Disney Company's diversity, equity, and inclusion. She was a senior vice president, C-suite ranking member of the Walt Disney Company, put in place by Bob
Iger, I believe.
Bob Iger. Yeah.
I feel like I'm taking an exam here. I hope I'm passing.
You're passing with flying colors. And this is the point, is that Sonia Coleman was brought in because when LaTondra Newton left, what happened to the diversity, equity, and inclusion department at Disney long before Trump came in? What happened to it?
Well, it was radicalized, but let me do one small shift to Ruski here. Sonia Coleman is head of the Human Resources Department.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about this is that Tanisha Agramonte is the head of diversity and inclusion. She replaced Ton Newton. Sonia Coleman is the one who's been required to put out the statement. Tanisha Agramonte, who is a political appointment from the Biden administration into Disney proper, she's silent. So it looks to me like maybe, just maybe, she wasn't willing to do this because this is her purview. Coleman's the one who's doing it instead.
They're merging it into HR because Coleman was around before that you just mentioned.
Agramonte,
yeah.
She's flat out a political.
They stated back then, I remember, we'll go back and we'll find this, but they stated back then when LaTondra Newton left, Sonia Coleman was coming in, replacing the HR manager that preceded her. And there was discussion at that time, a couple of years ago, if I'm not mistaken, that a lot of the duties from the DEI department and HR were going to be merged.
Yeah, they have to. It's the same thing they were doing at Microsoft under the Gates Foundation to create Bridge.
And here's the thing. The DEI department, if I'm not mistaken, is now under HR at Disney. I don't think it's still I don't remember if that was thinking of another company, but I'm pretty sure that when that happened, when they consolidated things, that the new chief of DEI, instead of having their own chair, like adjacent to HR, now that DEI department is underneath HR.
Sonia Coleman actually answers to Agramonte right now, the way the structure is.
I thought it was the other way around. Splitting hairs on this one. The point is that just kind of gives you an idea of this is what a lot of these companies are doing, is that they're merging these departments. They're putting DEI under HR in this regard because this is how they hide it, is the point. This is how they hide it. Leave this up for a second. I'm going to make one quick comment on this because I want everybody to just look at this chart and I want you to think about something for a second.
I see only inspirational leadership.
I so much of it. You got Bob Iger.
I looked at this, the last time I looked at this, I was on stream with Legal Mindset Andrew, and by the time I had gotten to the fourth or fifth of one of these yo-yos, I was so raging mad and screaming that he literally told me behind the stage in the messages, Mikey, calm down.
Yeah,
pull it back, man.
Can't drink enough to get through this. This is my point. When we talk about jobs that serve no corporate function, when we talk about BS college degrees that put you in these roles, and absolute nonsense that has no track record or history of anything, unless, of course, you lie about it and you say things like, well, Shogun, That's a DEI show. The DEI department gets credit for show. No, it doesn't. No, that's not how it works. DEI departments like at Disney, you get credit for The Little Mermaid, okay? You're going to get credit for the race swapping of Snow White. You get credit for the race swapping of Captain America. You can take credit for those things. They're all going to lose money. This is my point. Josh DeMauro, Carlos Gomez, okay? Carlos Gomez is the chief treasurer. He controls all the money at Disney. Alan Bergman controls the film studios. If we scroll down, you'd see Dana Walden, who controls all the television studios, okay? Hugh Johnston, who's the CFO. Horatio Gutierrez, the chief lawyer at Disney. Now, wait a minute. Now, scroll back up. Now, watch this. Watch how stupid this is. Josh DeMauro, keep going up. Stop right there. Josh DeMauro, the man who is responsible, the chairman, Disney Experiences, the Walt Disney Company. Josh DeMauro, who is responsible for running the bread and butter of Disney, the man who is responsible for generating 80 or 70 of the $90 billion in revenues, whatever it is, that Disney generates every year from theme parks, okay? He sits on this org chart, and he has to sit at the same executive table as Tanisha Agramonte, who has a bullshit job.
Yep.
If you're Josh DeMauro, and I don't care if Josh DeMauro could look as dark as Assad Ayez, the brand officer. I don't care. But if I'm the guy running the parks that's responsible for everything that goes on at Disney, that pays for everything at Disney, and I have to sit and share the table with a DEI executive that serves no functional purpose whatsoever to this business's bottom line, zero, except to basically loot the money that Josh DeMauro is bringing in. How would you feel?
Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.